Best mobile coverage in Guyana. Be it in Georgetown or in NI, we got you covered. Digicel, better together.
This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
A gas leak management plan is a critical document that is most times included in a developer's environmental impact assessment, a study that lays the foundation for a permit to be granted by regulators for such a venture. In Guyana, ExxonMobil, through its subsidiary, ESSO, is pursuing in part a gas-to-energy project, which will see the natural resource being transported to Wales on the west bank of Demerara via a pipeline from the Liza 1 and 2 fields in the Stabroek Block. An environmental impact assessment for the project has already been submitted. However, the document does not state how gas leaks, a likely event listed, will be responded to, even though the project manager, Friedrich Crispin, has acknowledged that the company is required to present such a document around the world. During a consultation hosted by ExxonMobil on Friday last at the Lenora Technical Institute, Crispin acknowledged the importance of the document and informed a handful of residents that the Stabroek Block partners, which will also be involved in the project, have not only been investing time into the venture to ensure such events are avoided, but are also financially stable to respond. In other news, with the global inflation and cost of living at record highs, President Ali on a Monday announced another raft of measures aimed at assisting Guyanese to cushion the impacts of the global phenomenon. He prefaced his announcements by pointing to the key factors behind the status quo and pointed to the global pandemic, which has led to supply chain hiccups. The president said, as a result of numerous consultations with Guyanese across the country, he would be accessing some $1.8 billion of the $5 billion that was allocated in the 2022 budget for additional relief. Among the measures announced by President Ali is another set of one-off cash grant of $25,000 per household. This time, the target group, according to the president, would be the riverine and hinterland communities. The president said, too, that the high cost of fertilizer has translated into increased prices on the markets, and as such, another of the measures would be to assist farmers with this. And moving on, while in opposition, Vice President Bharat Jagdeo had stated that an international investigation into the award of the Kaieteur and Kanji oil blocks, both of which were signed away days before the March 2015 elections, would get his support. Similarly, during a November 2020 press conference, Jagdeo reiterated his position and disclosed that he had asked for internal documents to be prepared and that he does not have any objection to any probe. But it has already been 18 months since the November 2020 press conference, and there has been no word on the probe into the 2 oil blocks. The awards were given to unqualified companies. The initial owners quickly flipped the blocks without doing any work. They are incorporated in secrecy jurisdictions, and Guyana likely lost revenue due to the avoidance of an open, competitive bidding process. And moving on, the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, or ACM, recently published its 2022 report in which Guyanese political leaders have been criticized for dodging reporters and hosting government-friendly interviews rather than press briefings. The State of the Caribbean Media Report, titled Through the Pandemic, is the second document compiled by ACM to capture the concerns of regional journalists and media enterprises. The report highlighted, while there are many exceptions to this, media workers continue to face challenges in accessing information from government and officials. Importantly, it was noted too that since the PPP was elected in 2020, there has been no post-cabinet press engagements despite promises by President Ali. Instead, the document said that the president has held a few press conferences and has resorted to issuing briefings or press releases in the state media. Meanwhile, interviews with key national issues are often granted to social media commentators and media houses that are government-friendly. These include interviews done by Vice President Bharat Jagdeo. And just before we head to a break, let's tell you that ESSO on Monday commenced public consultations, having submitted an application for environmental authorization for its 5th development in the Stabroek Block, its Uaru 1 field development. This much is documented in the project summary submitted to Guyana's Environmental Protection Agency. This even as the company was awaiting approval for its fourth project, Yellowtail, which was only recently approved. In the timelines outlined for the project, as stated by ExxonMobil, works related to the pre-front-end engineering and design aspect of the project's FPSO vessel commenced in September last year. This aspect of the development of the fifth project for ExxonMobil in the Stabroek Block is expected to be completed at the end of September this year, after which it will move into the engineering phase. The government of Guyana is proposing to repeal its mental hospital ordinance in order to replace it with a mental health protection and promotion legislation, which will include jail time and hefty fines for persons who are found guilty of abusing or abandoning a person with mental illness in their care. The bill was first presented last month and will be debated and is expected to be passed today when the National Assembly meets. According to the offences created in the new legislation being promulgated by Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony, any person who commits any act of cruelty to, abuse, or willfully neglect of any person with a mental illness commits an offence. In such a case, the offending individual would be liable to summary conviction, to a fine not exceeding $1 million, or to imprisonment not exceeding 6 months. Meanwhile, the regional administration of Region 2 was faced with several questions as it relates to over-budgeting on Monday as the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee examined its expenditure on employment costs in 2018. According to the Auditor General's report, the region's annual estimates totaling $1.8 billion were budgeted for employment costs for a staff complement of 1,373. However, as of December 31st, 2018, amounts totaling $1.835 billion were expended for a staff complement of 1,496. The figure represented 123 staff members, more than was budgeted for. When asked for an explanation on Monday, Regional Executive Officer for Region 2, Susanna Sewak, could not say how the payments were done. It was noted, however, that the funds did not come from the Ministry of Finance to pay the additional staffers.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's Newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your